10% of all first-year places of all courses are allocated at reduced points. So if you're, for example, being offered a place, if you want to study, for example, law, and there are 400 places in first year, well, 40 of these places will be reserved for here eligible students. Now, it's still a competition, which means we will take the 40 best candidates, those who are the closest to the required points. So the points can vary. I mean, sometimes there can be maybe a 10 points reduction, there could be 50 points reduction, and I have known students who have benefited from up to 80 points reduction. So you can't really tell you what this reduction is going to be. The one thing I would say is that last year, in spite of the calculated grades, we were still able in DCU to offer a significant number of places on reduced points. In fact, we had an 11% increase in offers made. So that was quite an achievement because of the raise, the increase and the inflated points as a result of the way students were assessed. So I just thought I would mention this. So moving on, then the second reason why it is might be worthwhile for you to apply for here is the post-entry supports, which are available to access students. So basically, once you are eligible for here and you are offered a place in DCU, you become an access student and you can benefit from a number of supports. So first of all, in terms of financial support, obviously you can apply for SUSI, which is possibly a separate presentation, which I won't go into tonight, but you can also avail of a scholarship in DCU at present. So it varies every year, depending on the funds that we have within Access. But at the moment, every single Access student can receive 400 euros in semester 1 and another 400 euros in semester 2. So this is non-negligible. And you also receive some budgeting advice while in first year in DCU. Of course, the Student Assistance Fund is also available for you to apply. So there is quite a substantial financial support available to you. Academically, you can also avail of additional tuition if you're struggling in one of your subjects, in maths or, chemistry, or, your post-entry officer can identify a student, usually a PhD student, which we're employing to support you and provide some extra tuition. Professionally, the Access students benefit, you probably know if you have looked into the prospectus that for many courses in DCU, you can do a placement in third year, which is the intra-placement. But as an Access student, you can also avail of an internship, which is called Access to the Workplace since last year. So this is a new initiative, which is really beneficial because it enables you to have an experience, professional experience much sooner, and therefore to develop a network and good contacts for you to get employment. There's also a mentoring program, which means that when you arrive in first year, you can have a mentor from second or third year to help you adapt to your new life in college. Personally, and this is a very important one, a very consistent one, when you start in DCU, you are introduced to your post-entry officer, and these would be my colleagues. I'm an outreach officer, which means I work in schools, but my colleagues would work directly with at post-entry level with students who have received a place and are starting in DCU. So they would regularly be in contact with you, whether it would be on the phone, on Zoom, obviously at the moment, but otherwise they would meet you face-to-face and deal with any issues you might have. I know Sinead already mentioned the counseling service. We have a number of services that would be available to you. And if you have a disability, we might refer you to the disability service as well. Okay, so in terms of the indicators, when you apply for the HERE scheme, you will be assessed on a number of indicators and you will need to meet 3 of these 6 indicators. The first one is a compulsory one. You have to meet the income. and you will need to be below 45,790 euros in 2019. This is the year which is looked at. Often we're being asked, why not 2020? No, we're looking at 2019 because the scheme opens in November. It opened in November 2020, and they always look at the previous year. So once you meet this criteria, you will also need to meet a combination of two others in the list, which is there in front of you. So either the medical card, GP visit card, whether your guardians or parents receive a means tested social welfare payment in the last, in at least 26 weeks in 2019. They also look at your employment status and whether it is underrepresented in higher education. And again, there is a list. If you look at the accesscollege.ie, you will have a lot of information and videos to support you when you're completing your application. So please do take a look. Then the DASH school status will be looked at as well. So you will need to have completed 5 years in a DASH school to qualify for this criteria. And finally, the area of concentrated disadvantage. So as I said, you will need to meet the here income limit plus the right combination of two other indicators to be eligible. So where should you be right now? As I said, you will have applied to the CAO already by the 1st of February. At the moment, you should really start completing your here online application. The deadline is the 1st of March. And in parallel to this, you have to gather your documentation. A checklist will be issued to you as you complete the here online application, and you will get a detailed list of all the documents you need to gather. So you really need to do this now because it takes a while to gather the documentation. And then you will have to send it by the 15th of March. And there is no leeway about this. It has to be sent by the 15th of March. So this is just a reminder. You will then be notified of eligibility in late June, and offers are made in August for a start in college in September. Again, these are the deadlines. I'm very conscious of the time, and I have my colleague Anne speaking about DARE later on, so I'm trying to speed up. But so these are kind of a reminder of the deadlines I've already mentioned. So really at the moment, you should be completing your online application, your here online application, and at the same time gathering all the documentation which is outlined in the checklist, and it has to be sent by post by the 15th of March to the CAO. And I thought I would end with this slide as well. Before showing you the resources you can access, you can apply for both here and there, as I'm sure Anne will remind you as well. And if you are eligible for both, you will be prioritized when places are allocated on reduced points. There are a lot of resources available. On YouTube, particularly if you wanted to Google it, the Here Information seminar, which took place early in January, would be very, very helpful for you. And then please check out the accesscollege.ie for plenty of resources to help you with your application. If you have further queries, please don't hesitate to contact me at laurence.vanderagen@dcu.ie. You'd be very welcome, and I'll be very happy to answer your queries. So I think it's exactly 5:45, Sinead.
You amazing, bang on time. Laurence, just before you head off, and thank you so much for that extremely informative kind of introduction to here and the DCU Access Service. We just have a couple of questions coming in, if you wouldn't mind, just before you head off. So our first question is, if a student applies for DARE or HERE, but gets the points for the course without using the points reduction, does this student take one of the HERE or DARE places?
Well, the student can still be will be considered an access student, but often, no, they will not. They will have a different code. So this place will be allocated to someone else, another student, but they will still benefit from the supports offered to access students.
Fantastic. That's perfect. One more question, or two more. The first is that someone's wondering, when will we get notified about the documentation for HERE arriving?
Okay, okay. So actually, this question came up recently. There is actually no notification, as far as I can recall, when you're not receiving an email that your application has been received. So it's something to bear in mind. You just sent it by the deadline, but you will not receive a confirmation of your online application.
Okay, fantastic. And one final one before you can go and enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'm not sure if you know this, or maybe they might want to contact you directly. Someone said, can students who were in the care of the state qualify for the HERE scheme?
Sorry, can I come back, Sinead, on the previous question?
Yeah.
One thing that I would say is that on the 22nd of June, if you will need to check your eligibility for HERE on the CAO website. Okay, so I don't think this is the question that was asked, but I thought I would clarify that.
Perfect, perfect. So if I'll just read out that last question there before you head off.
Yeah.
Can students who were in the care of the state qualify for the HERE scheme?
Absolutely. And for students who are in the care of the state, and if they check the actual prospectus, you will see that the conditions are slightly different. You will need to have a letter from TUSLA, and this will be sufficient for your application to indicate that you are in the care of the state.
Fantastic, Laurence. Thank you so much again for taking the time up on your Thursday evening to speak to us. As everyone can see, Laurence's email is there on screen, so I'm sure if there's some further questions that students would be welcome to get in contact with you if they do want to know something, or if a question pops up over the next couple of weeks. But Laurence, thank you so much for coming today. And now I'm going to promote Anne into the talk. So thank you, Laurence. You're free to go.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Now we're going to bring Anne into the call. Okay.
Can you hear me, Sinead? Yes.
And I can hear you and I can see you perfectly. How are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good for 10 to 6 on a Thursday evening.
You know what? I'm just thinking we're all fair play to everyone who's here because it's getting to the end of the week. I totally get the feeling. But thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of people on the call who are very excited to learn more about HERE, which they heard earlier, and now DARE. So take it away, Anne.
Great, brilliant. Okay. Thanks very much, Laurence. She will have covered some of the key information about dates and that. So let me just get cracking on this. So my name is Anne O'Connor and I'm the head of the Disability and Learning Support Service at Dublin City University. And it's my job to make sure that students are supported once they get into the university, and also to help those students that are applying through DARE to come into the university and reduce points. So I've just a couple of slides, very short. Again, it's a little bit like Laurence, it's an introduction to what DARE is about. So DARE is the disability access route to education, and similar to HERE, it means that students can get in on reduced points, CO points, into a university or college. And in relation to DARE, it is based on a student having a disability or a mental health condition or specific learning difficulty or an ongoing illness, anything that had a negative impact on your performance while in school. So maybe you had to miss school because you had appointments with a counsellor. Maybe you missed chunks of school because you were unwell, you were getting treatment. Maybe you have dyslexia and it takes you that bit longer to do your homework. All this is taken into account in DARE, and it's there for you to make sure that you can still access third level education. So we are able to get you in on reduced points. So DARE is for those that come under those categories, and that you mightn't be able to meet the points for your preferred course due to the impact of the disability or difficulty that you've had, and that you're under the age of 23. So you're not a mature student. You're under the age of 23 as of the 1st of January 2021. As Laurence mentioned, accesscollege.ie is a great website. It has all the information, it has all the handbooks in relation to HERE and DARE. And it's certainly a great place for you to go if you have any questions you want to initially have answers to. But of course, you can contact us at any point. So who is eligible to apply for DARE? So in relation to DARE, as I mentioned, it's disability. It's also students on the autism spectrum or also have Asperger's, students with attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity, students who are blind or of sight loss, students who are deaf or hard of hearing, students with dyspraxia or developmental coordination disorder, also students with mental health conditions, as I mentioned earlier, such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia. We've also students can apply with neurological conditions, such as epilepsy, a brain injury, or students with speech and language difficulties. Students with significant ongoing illness. So we have students with Crohn's disease, we have students with chronic asthma, we have students with diabetes type 1, we have students with cystic fibrosis. We have students with medical conditions we hadn't heard of until they started in DCU. So any condition that has impacted on you while you've been in second level and trying to do your Leaving Cert. It also covers students with specific learning difficulties such as dyslexia or dyscalculia, and also students with physical disabilities such as cerebral palsy or motor neuron or Friedreich's ataxia. Again, as I said, any condition that has impacted on you that you're not able to keep up with your studies similar to your classmates. So how do you apply to DARE? As Laurence mentioned, at this point, you already have, if you're hoping to come into college in September, you will have applied to the CEO and opened your account on the 1st of February. You must complete your Section A online of the DARE form by the 1st of March. So you have a little bit of time to do that. And on Section A, it's all online, and it's just about what condition you're applying under. Are you applying under more than one? There's also an opportunity for you to write a personal statement if you want. That's not compulsory, and it doesn't go against your eligibility for DARE. That personal statement is really to help us when you actually get to the college and help us to figure out what supports you're going to need while you're with us. And it's an opportunity for you to tell us your story and to tell us how this has impacted on you and your studies. So the Section A you complete online, then you get an educational impact statement which yourself and the school will fill out. Now it is a bit tricky at the moment, obviously with the schools closed, but I know many career guidance officers have been in touch with us and they're doing great work and they're filling out these forms and they're including all the necessary signatures that they need to. So don't be worrying too much, get onto your school, get onto your career guidance, they are still filling them out. So the educational impact statement will talk about the impact that your condition has had on you in school. So we will talk about it might take you longer to do exams. It might take you, you might have missed school, as I mentioned earlier, because of appointments. You might also maybe have social difficulties within school. It will mention that. So it'll highlight any impact that you've experienced. And that will all be taken into account in when you're decided on the eligibility for DARE. And you also then must provide evidence of your disability. So there's Section A is online. Section B is the educational impact statement with your school. And Section C is you provide your evidence of disability. So that could be anything from a report from a psychiatrist in relation to your mental health difficulty, up-to-date scores for students with specific learning difficulties, evidence from a consultant confirming what medical condition you have. It cannot be evidence from your GP. A GP can fill it out and say, yes, this student has this condition and I have evidence on file relating to that condition, and here is that evidence. So if you are getting your GP to provide that evidence of disability, you make sure they include a copy of the original evidence that they have. It is not enough just for the GP to fill out the form. And every year there will be a couple of applicants where the GP has not included that copy of the evidence. So please make sure you have the copy of the evidence. All the evidence that you need and per specific categories, all available on accesscollege.ie and also available in the DARE handbooks that some of you may have, but it's all on accesscollege.ie. But if there's any questions or any concerns, please do contact me and I have our details later on. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have in relation to filling out DARE. So Part A is done online. You need to do that by the 1st of March. You then fill out your educational impact statement and you send that, a copy of that, don't be sending originals, copies will do, a copy of the educational impact statement with a copy of your evidence of disability into the CEO by the 15th of March. Given the year that is in, we would suggest as quickly as possible you get this evidence together and make sure you have it in by the 15th of March. Keep proof of postage. I should get a t-shirt with that on it. If you have proof of postage, that means you go to the post office, you say, I want to send this to the CAO and I want proof of postage. They will give you a receipt to say that you have sent that documents in and you sent them in before the 15th of March. Should your documents go missing and should you get a letter to say you applied for DARE but we never got any documentation, you can still send your documents in even at a late date. Once you have that proof of postage, once you have a receipt to say you did send something in, then the CEO will accept late documents. So proof of postage is so important. Just also note, there have been applicants onto us due to COVID and getting access to their consultants. And some of those applicants are going to have difficulty getting their evidence in by the 15th of March because of COVID. There is an option under appeals and rechecks. Again, it's all on accesscollege.ie. If there's a problem, if it is not your fault that you can't get access to the evidence, if it's because of COVID and access to your consultant, there is extensions given in relation to getting that evidence in. So you have to put an appeal to the CEO for that, but it's all explained on accesscollege.ie. So if you're sitting here listening to this thinking there's no way I'm going to have the evidence by the 15th of March because I'm only talking to the consultant on the 13th of March, there is an option for you to make an appeal on those grounds. So please bear that in mind. Don't write it off just yet. And it's all explains everything on accesscollege.ie. So in order to be eligible for DARE, you need to have met educational impact. So that educational impact form I was talking about with the school, that needs to show that there has been impact, that it does take you longer, that you are getting exam accommodations for your state exams. You also need to provide that evidence of your disability, and it needs to be the correct evidence by the correct consultant. That will make you eligible for DARE. So all the evidence that you send in is screened. We note that there's impact. We say that's the correct evidence, and that will make you eligible for DARE. So you need those two things to be eligible for DARE. So in relation to reduced points in DCU, and again, it's similar how we operate our reduced points will be similar to how here would operate them. There's a couple of little differences. So for DARE applicants applying to DCU, we have 5% of all programme places reserved for DARE. So here have 10% and we have 5%. What that means in reality is, for example, in the business degrees in DC 111, I have 10 places that I can fill with DARE applicants under the points. For sports, because their classes are so small, I only have 1 place. And for general nursing, then I have 6. For our BEd, I have 20 places. So really, it depends on how big the actual program is, will determine how many places that I have. Most programs are fairly good or fairly generous. The sports ones is a struggle that we only have 1 place on those programs, and there is disappointment each year. But that's how that operates. We have 5% of all program places. You must meet the entry requirements, as Laurence explained. You must meet the entry requirements to the university, and you must meet any program requirements that are required. So for example, for the BEd, you must meet the Irish. We can help with the points, but we cannot help with any program requirements or languages that you must have. You must have them. In relation to points reduction, it does vary, as Laurence was saying, from year to year. And I can't tell you what someone will get in on this year that they got in on last year. It will be different. But on average, point reduction typically for somebody coming into DARE, coming into DCU on DARE would be 30 to 40 points reduction. I can go to a maximum of 75 points reduction, which is a huge amount of points reduction, but I don't often get there because it's all about demand, and it's all about the first person under the CO points will be offered a DARE off place. Then I go to the next person under the points and the next person. The only difference is in relation to how the offers are done in relation to DARE is that our students with sensory, so our students who are blind or sight loss or deaf or hard of hearing, and our students with physical disabilities will be prioritising those offers. So they will be made the first offers once they're within that 75 point reduction. So the most important thing to do with DARE is pick the program that you really want to do. Even if you think the points are way off, put it down, because with DARE you could get it. And that would be the same for all the colleges that are involved in DARE. Put down what you really want to do and make sure you have lots of options and lots of choices, and you cover a range of points just so to ensure that you do get an offer within the programs. Okay, so that's DARE. There is also a range of supports that you can get in the universities and colleges and in DCU once you come in. Regardless of how you get into DCU, you can still access a range of supports. So DARE is just a way of getting in the door on reduced points if you need it. If you don't need it, that's fine. It won't kick in, but you can still access exactly the same supports. So as I said, regardless, if you choose not to apply to DARE, that you don't feel you need DARE, or that you don't want to apply for DARE, that's absolutely fine. You can still get the exact same supports once you come into college. So for some of our students, they might need a personal assistant, or they might need assistive technology. So assistive technology, like really technology like advanced spell checkers like Claro Read software. A lot of our students with dyslexia would use that. We also have Grammarly premium licenses for our students with dyslexia to help with the grammar and spelling for assignments and that. And some of our students might use a recording device. Also in relation to, we run workshops for our students who are deaf with sign language interpreters. I'm going to speed through now. Note taking some of our students might require, but we're really good and proactive on technology in DCU and really push the whole point of using software and technology to encourage independence of our students. Also, some of our students might become unwell and might require tuition if they've missed chunks of college, and occupational therapists are also available to students to help keep them on track and also to help them from the social side of it. And then we have a range of exam supports, including extra time, smaller exam room, the dyslexia guidelines, which is like the dyslexia waiver and the Leaving Cert, possibly use of a laptop in exams, and text-to-speech software, and also reader scribes. The text-to-speech software will be the Clara Read, and instead of readers, we provide students with the Clara Read to read the exams. So I flew through that at the end. I hope I didn't go too fast. Any questions at all, email us, ring us. While we're not in the offices, we have the phone lines all forwarded to our mobiles at home. So please do ring us, do drop us an email, and we're happy to take any questions. I'll take questions now, or if you'd like to email them or ring us separately during the week, I'm happy to chat to anybody about DARE and the supports. Thanks, Sinead.
Oh, I was muted. Thank you very much for that, Anne. Again, really appreciate you taking the time of your evening to spend it with us. There are a couple of questions that have come in if you would like to. I'm not sure if you can see them on your screen as well, but I can read them out so that everyone can see them.
Read them out.
I'll go from the first one that's here. Could you talk about the personal statement that I have to make? How much detail do I have to go into?
Okay, so the personal statement is an option on the DARE form. So I don't want you worrying too much about that, because every year students worry about it. Really, it's an opportunity for you to tell us how your difficulties have impacted on you. So only write what you're comfortable writing. You don't have to go into too much detail. If you want to write a few lines saying, yes, I missed a lot of school and I felt I was behind, 3 or 4 or 5 lines, again, it's not going to determine whether you're eligible for DARE or not. It's really to help you with supports when you come into college. So don't worry too much about that. Write a few lines, write a whole page, whatever you're comfortable with writing.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's answered. Another question for Anne. I suffer with depression and anxiety. However, I don't need regular help and it hasn't affected much of my education. Do you think it's necessary that I apply?
Absolutely not. No, DARE is for those who feel that it has impacted on them. And if you don't think it has impacted on them, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to apply for DARE. You can still get supports. As I said, once you get into us, you can still make yourself known to us and say, actually, do you know, I didn't need DARE, but, you know, maybe a little bit of help to keep me going. And, or if I come up to deadlines and stuff and I'm struggling. So you don't have to apply for DARE, only if you want to. And if you think you need to. Some students don't feel it's going to impact on their Leaving Cert results, and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to apply for DARE.
Absolutely. And as you said, there are a lot of services there for students, no matter what way you come into the university, and people are there to help. And there's lots of offices dedicated to that help. There's a question here in relation to, I think, one of the examples that you made earlier. When you say one place in sport, is that one place for all of the sports courses, or is that one in each course?
It's one on each course. I just tend to put the sports programs together because they're so small. But there's one, we've one on ATT, we've one on sports science, and I've one on the other one that I can't remember the name of. Sinead, you probably know
one of the PE in biology.
Yes, PE in biology, yes. So I've one place on each of our sports programs.
Fantastic, thank you. And then the final question that's come in here is, I attended a psychologist for 3 years and I hope to apply for DARE. However, I was told the psychologist I attended needed to have a certain name listed or a degree. So the person just wants a bit of clarity on that. Like, will you have to give details of, say, the doctor or the psychologist you've been visiting in order to make that application? I think that's what, and to clarify me, whoever's asking the question, if that's not correct.
And they could certainly contact me during the week if they want to talk about this specifically. What will normally happen is if it's an education psychologist who provides the evidence for your dyslexia, then they're an education psychologist, and they'll have specific qualifications that we'll know that they have because they're a registered education psychologist. So it will, like a counselling psychologist can't do an educational test for dyslexia, those type of things. It does differ. So we will know from their qualifications if they're qualified to have provided the evidence for you. But certainly give me a call or drop an email there to disability.service.is, and I can get back to you over the next couple of days with that.
Absolutely. I don't see any more questions coming in at this moment in time. But as you've mentioned, lots of times we have an email address there, and your inbox is open for anyone who does have further queries. And I'm sure there will be a couple that people might think only when they're eating their dinner now in a couple of minutes. They might go, I should have asked Anne. And we'll get that proof of postage t-shirt sorted for you.
Yes, I do.
Just know if you take anything away from that today, I think that's
proof of postage is really important. Yes.
And thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for your help there. Thank you everyone for staying with us so far. Just as I finish up, I'll just show you some of the resources that we have online to learn more about any of our courses, or pretty much anything that you heard today in the talk. So we're putting as much content online as we possibly can, between podcasts and blogs where our students talk about their own experiences. We have UniBuddy, which is a chat service where you can chat free of charge to our student ambassadors about their courses. Every Wednesday, we take from 4 to 5 o'clock to talk to 2 students from 2 different courses in DCU to learn about their experience. Of course, we're here every Thursday to do our live presentation with a different guest, and we're very active on social media as well. So we've got our Instagram QR code there if you want to scan it and take a look, just to kind of learn about everything that DCU has to offer without having to, you know, look deeply into prospectus or anything like that. And we're on TikTok as well and on Snapchat, but you can find everything through our Instagram. So thank you so much for attending the talk today. Hopefully you'll stay connected with us, whether that is a follow on social media or maybe you will email Laurence or Anne with some further queries. And we did have our virtual open day on November 21st. So anything that I spoke about today, any courses or internships or clubs and societies, there were designated talks for those subjects at our virtual open day. And they were all recorded and they're sitting on dcu.ie/CAO for anyone who wants to visit it. And maybe then eventually you might find that DCU is the right match for you and you might put us on your CAO. For any questions relating to what you heard today, or maybe you can't remember the email addresses earlier, that's no problem. You can find us at studenthelp@dcu.ie, or that's the email address you got this link from today. So feel free to ask any sort of questions and send them to that inbox and we will get back to you. We will have accommodation on next week, as I mentioned. So if you're someone who's interested in living on campus in DCU, tune in next week to learn more, and we'll also have the general presentation again. So thank you very much for joining me this evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.